So, when you look at gaming as a whole, you see an industry that is thriving, succeeding in an industry that is grossing $184 billion just in 2024 alone. But with the success, we're starting to see cracks, major cracks, cracks that are at the foundation of the whole industry. EA getting bought out by private equity is one thing, but Microsoft on top of that, increasing prices of Game Pass by 50% in a single year, yeah. Things are starting to get a little bonkers here. We're seeing widespread studio closures, massive layoffs, and slowdowns in what's being produced or what's not. And this is starting to show that the industry really is recently just been bolstering itself by laying off people and cutting down on costs. And since they're cutting down on costs, that means obviously quality is going down too. Is that what I think it is? Is that it really stinks. A crash? A game market crash? Yeah. Let's talk about it. Over the last decade, we've watched games go from $50 million to produce to now $200 million, just on average. That's the floor, baseline, completely average. And that's not even including marketing. But titles like GTA 6 are expected to go past $1 billion to potentially even $2 billion. And this is a single title. This is not including any DLCs. This is not including anything else. This is just to make GTA 6. And because of this massive shift in the amount of money it takes to make a game, we're seeing developers shy away from making games that have some little risk to making games that are risk-free and are guaranteed to make hundreds, millions of dollars every single time they release one of these shitty games. For the people who are listening on headphones and don't actually watch the video for whatever reason because you're at work, a lot of you actually did that for my last video because I saw a lot of work playlists. Those games are FIFA, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Madden, you know, the usuals. And since there's not many fresh ideas and new innovations, we are really starting to run out of gas in the gaming industry. And this has led to us to have very little innovation, very few fresh ideas, and this has led to a complete stagnation of the gaming industry for the most part, at least in the AAA scene. And again, since games cost so much to make, developers want to get their money back. Publishers are saying, oh, put these loot boxes in, put this battle pass in, put these DLCs in. Day one DLCs, they'll buy it, they're stupid enough to buy it. And now you're being forced to buy all this stuff. It's being hyper monetized. They really are just trying to extract as much money as they can from these IPs that I just mentioned earlier. And the cost of games being so high is really self-inflicted because look at Red Dead Redemption 2. It has horse testicles that have physics. They move around. Testicle physics. Horse testicle physics. That's what the game has. And do you know how much that probably costs? That probably costs $1,000 right there. Because to think about how many people had to work on making those testicles have physics and move around like real testicles. And yeah, that's really where all the money is going. It's going to random things that most users are not ever going to even see. Into stuff like making ultra realistic graphics or making the game feel as realistic as possible, which obviously increases complexity, and with complexity, since there's so many moving parts in making a game now, you're going to get tons of game-breaking bugs and random weird things happening on screen. And so since they're wasting so much money on so many random things, they have to ask for more money from the consumers. Within this generation, we saw games go from $60 to $70, which is actually 17%. Quite a lot actually, just to see in one generation. Especially since in the Xbox One, we did not see that same shift. Publishers like to say if you bought a game for $60 in 2005, it'd be worth $107 today, but in reality that math doesn't exactly hold up because not everyone is making that much more since they were in 2005. The real reality is the average person, the average salaryman, is making absolutely nothing. $107 for a game would absolutely be atrocious. I don't think anyone would be picking up games anymore for $107, especially since games have so much monetization in them. If they're $107 and they have this level of monetization, people are not going to be playing games anymore. Not to mention, since basically every single game these days is sold digitally, manufacturing, shipping, and packaging, all of that is out of the wayside. And all they have to do is sell on a digital storefront. And really, that's not the major cost savings there. The real cost savings is a physical store takes 20% of the sale. So for publishers, that means all there is left is Microsoft's 30% cut, which I'm pretty sure was a 20% cut back when they used to sell in physical stores. So from each sale of each game, you're getting 10% more, just in that alone. And game companies like to insist, hey, buy this day one DLC, the game's broken, it's perfect, go buy it. Yeah. I'm not buying that. You already through digital sales are making way more than you used to. Just give me a break. And the reality of the $70 price point is it's really just could be temporary. This could be just the new baseline, and we could be heading to $80 for some games, or $80 could become the new baseline, and we could be paying $100 for certain games. There's been tons of rumors saying GTA 6 potentially could be above $100 for the starting price. Fortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be like that, but there's still a lot of talk of that potentially happening. And a lot of publishers would absolutely love if Rockstar were to raise their prices to $100 for GTA 6. Because guess what that means? They can do the same. Assassin's Creed, that could be $100 for that shitty experience you get from Assassin's Creed these days. $100 for that piece of shit. This generation of consoles is the first time we've seen console prices rise like this. Other than niche cases where, market speculation or trading wars, that's really the only times we ever see console prices go up, and it's only in specific regions. During the pandemic, we saw the Switch go up a little bit, but that was only a one-time thing, so I don't know what's going on now. So guess what? Console makers are getting sick and tired of selling their consoles at a loss. They did this really to increase software sales, but they want their money, they want to rake in as much money as possible, so they thought, let's raise the prices of consoles. Consumers will still consume, right? And they did indeed. But, you might say, yeah, this console generation, these consoles are very powerful, and still at this point of the generation, you really can't build a PC for a better price than the consoles currently. But we are starting to get close to that. And at these prices, since they're increasing them, it's becoming easier and easier to find deals on hardware and build a PC at a price that's similar or even sometimes less than the current generation consoles. I'm looking at you, Microsoft, with that 2TB Xbox Series X. That is atrocious. I can probably build a PC right this second for the same price or lower. Absolutely terrible. So you might be asking, what are those console price increases you're talking about? Well, Sony increased the price of the PS5 Disk Drive Edition from $500 to $550, and the PS5 Pro from $700 to $750. And guess what? Obviously, if they do it, someone else has to do it too. And you know who that player is? Drumroll something? Microsoft, yeah. This October, Microsoft increased the price of the Xbox Series X by $50 to $650. And that's on top of their $100 increase back in May. Yeah, it's really bad. So increasing prices of consoles like this is increasing the barrier of entry for people to get into gaming. People are probably more likely to just buy an Xbox One or PS4 at this point, because why would you buy this console generation? I've already talked about why this console generation is so embarrassing to begin with, mostly because it doesn't have any games, but on top of that, why wouldn't you just buy an Xbox One? You can play Xbox 360 games for the most part, and some original Xbox games. It makes a lot more sense, and the Xbox One X actually looks better than the Xbox Series X sometimes, in some cases when ray tracing is enabled. So just buy an Xbox One X, please. But whatever, subtle plugs to older videos of mine are over, and yeah, you can obviously see they're trying to extract as much money as they can from the consumer here. They want all of that money. They want to rake it into their bank accounts, their deep pockets over at Microsoft, Bill Gates, and that guy, I don't remember his name. They really want all that money. Phil Spencer gets money too, in ways you don't really think of, not cash. But enough of that, whatever the fuck that was. Yeah, they're raking in all the money, and that's why the math is not mathin', because it's not mathin'. Console makers are increasing the prices by the day, and consumers want the same price as usual or even lower. They sometimes expect a lower price because, I don't know, historically, consoles went down in price as they aged. The PS3 Slim, the PS3 Super Slim after that, or you can even include the PS3 Fat non-60 gig edition where they dropped PS2 support. Each one of those consoles dropped the price slightly. So at the end of the console generation, consumers who couldn't originally afford the new console could, and they bought it because it was more in their price range for an impulse buy, maybe for a Christmas gift, or they actually could save up for it and buy it at the store. I don't know, isn't that a brilliant business idea? Lower the prices so more people can buy your software? But yeah, they're not doing that anymore. For some reason, they got in their ideas, let's raise the prices. Let's not make a cheaper alternative to the consoles we already have. Screw that. And yeah, it's really stupid. And on top of that, Xbox Game Pass is going up by 50% in a single year. In the last year, it went from $16.99 to, I don't know, $30 basically. Yeah, that's really a good move, Microsoft. Yeah, have you seen the Google Trends recently? Up 100%. People searching for how do I cancel Xbox Game Pass. That's up 100%. People are really fucking pissed by this because why would you raise prices by 50%? And this is on top of them raising prices back in July of 2023 from $14.99 to $16.99. And then in July of 2024, they raised prices from $16.99 to $19.99. And yeah, you can guess the rest because I already told you from there in October this year, they raised prices from $19.99 to $30 or $29.99. Buy now. So I guess the first time they increased prices, they really realized, oh, these schmucks, they're just going to keep buying the product. They're going to keep consuming. And yeah, we really did keep consuming. And yeah, they get a little carried away. And in basically a single year time frame, 14 months to be exact, they decided to raise prices because they knew they can get away with it. But luckily, people really are starting to leave in droves because if you actually have hobbies, have a life, maybe have a girlfriend, do stuff other than gaming on the Xbox itself, if you own 2 consoles even, Game Pass doesn't make any real sense for people anymore because if you just buy 5 games a year, it makes no sense to have Game Pass, because it costs $30 a month now. And we've seen this before in tech. Netflix did the exact same thing. They increased the prices. They just turned the dial until they saw a bunch of consumers leave, and then they turned it back down a little bit. But Microsoft, they turned that dial a little bit, and then they yanked it all the way. And yeah, people are leaving in droves because $30 a month really puts the consumer on the spot to question, is this really worth it? Or should I just buy the games I want to buy, physically? I can always own them. They're my games. I can play them offline, even if there's, maybe a massive EMP that hits the whole planet and there's no more power, but I can use my backup generator to play Minecraft, that's great. You can play Minecraft even offline with no power and the internet's out, and yeah, you can do that. But with Game Pass, you can't because you don't actually own the games. You don't own anything. It's just a, streaming service basically. It's just like Netflix. I think we can all agree over the last decade, we've seen plenty of AAA titles release that are just broken and make no sense to buy at launch. A lot of these games takes months or years of post-launch patches and still sometimes don't even look any better. Like the Skull and Bones flop. That cost $650 million potentially, all the way up to $850 million plus. We don't exactly know how much it costs, but it took them 10 years to develop, and it's still a disaster. Imagine spending $850 million to just score a 59 on Metacritic. It's very disappointing they couldn't have gotten 10 points higher for obvious reasons. And since many studios, many publishers are very afraid of this fact that they can spend $850 million on a game and it to be a complete flop, they load up their games with massive amounts of microtransactions, day one DLCs, you name it, which further adds on to the quality of the game being completely lackluster sometimes and, waiting on for content because, they released the game unfinished and it takes a year for content to even resemble what you would expect from a game. I'm talking about you, Halo Infinite. Many games these days are really only designed to monopolize the stupidity of some players in spending thousands of dollars on microtransactions. And since publishers know there's some fool willing to pay thousands of dollars sometimes for microtransactions, skins, or whatever, you name it, they are disincentivized to make a good product because they know that fool will basically fund the process of making that game into what it should have been at launch. And that leaves the customers who, don't like to spend thousands of dollars paying $70 to also help aid the process of making the game halfway decent or even to the point where, it should have launched at. Like, think about how effed up it is that we are literally paying companies $70 to make a game. We're not paying companies $70 for their game, we're paying companies $70 to make the game. Does that make any sense? And since they are literally incentivized to be risk adverse and put tons of microtransactions in games, the only real feasible way to do that is to have an open world game. Further adding fuel to the fire of same old, resulting in titles that feel creatively bankrupt and are completely lackluster. The announced upcoming acquisition of EA in 2027 is quite alarming, honestly, and is raising red flags across the board. Not just because of the weird assortment of buyers they have, like Silver Lake, the Saudis, Trump's son-in-law, whatever, we're just gonna ignore that, but really just because of the massive implications this has for the rest of the industry. This buyout of EA is being fueled by a massive amount of debt. Not to mention, that debt was being transferred to EA. So that means for EA to stay afloat, they must make $2 billion annually. Yes, shareholders do want the most out of the company, but they also do care about the future of the company because when most people invest, they invest, which means they hold their money in one location for a long period of time. They're not traders. But private equity companies, they want the most out of the company in the short term. So what this means is you're going to see tons of cost cutting, tons of layoffs, tons of studios being closed, tons of studios being sold. So it means anything you like from EA most likely will never be made again, because we're not getting another Titanfall. We're not ever going to get another Mass Effect. We're never going to get another Dead Space. And what they're going to do instead is focus on games like Madden, FIFA, The Sims. Games that have proven to make them tons of money. And in those games, you're going to see massive amounts of microtransactions, massive amounts of DLCs. You name it, you're going to see it. You might even see subscription services be added. They want to squeeze every last drop of their existing IPs so they can pay off that debt instead of investing in new things. And this is exactly what we saw with Toys R Us. They couldn't invest money back into the business. They couldn't renovate stores. They couldn't invest in a digital infrastructure and have an online site to sell things. And this led to their demise because Amazon basically took their place in the market. Walmart basically took their place in the market. Even Best Buy took their place in the market. So what we're going to start seeing with EA is they're going to start focusing on things now rather than things later. Everything in the future doesn't matter. What matters now is paying off that debt. Future be damned. So right now, you might be able to smell that same stench I was talking about earlier in the video. EA being taken over by private equity, and Xbox squeezing every last drop out of their consumers. And when you look at the broader sense, we're expecting in 2026 there to be potentially a recession. So what is the first thing people cut? Luxuries. What is gaming? A luxury. So people are going to be focusing on maybe paying their utilities, paying rent, I don't know, paying for food. That's what they're going to be doing. They're for sure not going to be paying $30 a month for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And they're not going to be buying EA games because screw that. And that's where I'm making the distinction of the 1983 game crash to now, because things are looking pretty similar. In 1983, we saw a rush of low-quality, poorly made games on the market, and today we're kind of seeing the same thing, but in the upper echelon of what should be good. AAA games should be good. That should be the best of the best. That's what you spend the most money on. But AAA games these days are being outcompeted by indie games regularly. Not only just in sales, which most of them don't really ever live up to those same sales AAA games do, but just in love, the amount of interest they get, the amount of interest they garner. And that's where I'm seeing that the ultimate correction will be in AAA games. That will be where the market for games completely dries up and crashes. So to kind of explain what I actually think is going to happen in the future is, well, we're going to have a recession. AAA games are going to become the thing of the past. Hardcore gamers are going to buy indie games, and guess what? There's tons of normies. They're just going to play free-to-play games because they don't have any money. Hardcore gamers might go back to playing retro games too, because used games are probably going to be cheap as well. I don't think we'll ever see to the same extent we saw in 1983, where basically the whole market went down, but it is possible in the near future we will see a lot of harm done to the gaming industry. Any shift in discretionary spending will lead the whole game industry into the fucking toilet. And this is all inflicted by themselves. They insisted in increasing subscription prices. They insisted on making console prices absolutely egregious. And on top of that, they're still shoving horse manure down your throat with microtransactions. So again, I believe normies will save the game market, because if there's a recession, unemployment goes up, more people are going to be playing the Xbox and PlayStation, Nintendo, whatever you have. They're going to play those, and they're not going to be able to play new games, so they're going to play what they have, or they're going to buy cheap indie games, or they're just going to play free-to-play games with their friends. That is most likely what's going to happen. That's what we saw over the pandemic. If we look back at the 2008 recession, why do you think everyone was playing Halo 3? Because they owned the game already, and they wanted to play with their friends, because everyone's unemployed. In reality, there was only 10% employment, but, you know, that's still a lot of people being at home, stuck at home, playing Halo 3. So that really did affect, you know, what games people were playing at the time. But yeah, normies have always been in control of the industry. The whole reason why we're here, the whole reason why we have such massive amounts of bullshit going on is because of them. And I believe they're the only ones who can get us out of this. And it takes something like a recession to do so.